I want you to know that I am recording this meeting, and I am planning to take that. It takes a few minutes after we sign off for it to go through a conversion to an MP4 file, and then I send it over to Lucy, and she's going to put a head and tail on it and make it available through YouTube. And we'll send you all a notice when that's available if you'd like to pass along or pass the link along to someone else. So look for that message sometime after we're done, perhaps even a day later. The next meeting I'd like you to know about is the meeting of our short film showcase, which we do on the first Monday of every month. And our next one will be on October 5th, Monday, October 5th at 1 p.m. So those have become very popular. And if you're interested in that, send us a meeting interest as you did for this meeting. Send it to Marcia Berman. Our next general meeting will be on October 15th, and we'll get a notice out as soon as we have our speaker lined up. Now, it's my privilege tonight to introduce Chuck Holland, who is the VMS Director of Information Technology. And he has a lot of interesting stories, he says, to tell us what happened when we shut down and everybody suddenly wanted to do everything over the internet and streaming movies and doing Zoom meetings and so forth. And so I'm eager to hear what Chuck has to say. So Chuck, go ahead and begin.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for having me. Of course, as soon as I kick off, the vacuum cleaner guy is outside my office, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Yeah, as Stephen has mentioned, my name is Chuck Holland. I work for Village Management Services. I've been here just over 4 years. I've been around the block a few times since I've been here. I've been involved with pretty much all aspects of the technology, of broadband services, and now, which you may not know, is part of resident services as well. So I've been around the block. This is my most recent assignment was to, once we had somebody retired from resident services, our resident service director, who retired at the beginning of the year, our CEO, Jeff Parker, because I'm intimately aware of all our computerized business systems that run resident services or lack thereof, and my knowledge of the community, the operations of all the other different departments. CEO asked me, hey, why don't you take a stab at getting our call center up to speed? Let's take a look at our internal processes and what can we do to modernize our resident service operation so we can provide a better level of service at the lowest possible cost that we can to the community. We know that any type of money that we're spending on payroll or systems or technology has a direct impact to your monthly assessments. So what we're always trying to do is look for the best and most efficient ways to get things done without having to add people, by streamlining processes, and by using technology to be able to create workflows and or business processes that are electronic, right? So that's what I'm always trying to do is look at how we're doing something now. If it's taken us 3 people to do something, can we do it with 2? If we're doing something and it's taking 25 steps, can we get it to 15? So coming down here to resident services was a pretty big eye opener. At the beginning of the year, things looked like 2020 was going to be a pretty good year. And then come February, we started getting some nervous indications from overseas, and then March, all hell broke loose. So that was quite the challenge. The new director in resident services, not really knowing anybody down here, having one of the largest departments in the organization, having to figure out how to keep the wheels on during a global pandemic. So it was something else. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I know everybody likes to see my face, but I'm going to share my screen, and we'll cruise through a PowerPoint presentation. So I'll take you along with some things that we've been doing and what we've been working on while we've been shut down. And I got lots of impromptu stories I like to share too along the way. How much time do you think I got, Steve? A couple hours?
Unmute. I normally have this meeting over by 8:30 at the latest.
Okay. All right, we got plenty of time. So that was the big kicker. You know, during the time when we had shut down, you got to think about the village. The village being, you know, almost a 60-year-old company, right? The Village Management Service, Laguna Woods Village in itself. And we have the majority of our employees are on site. Matter of fact, all of our employees are on site. They're at one of the many clubhouses. They're out in the Molten Service Center, transportation, broadband services, the community center. And essentially, you know, we have really a 4-mile area, a campus, and we have employees all over the campus working here on site. Now we know for the first couple of months, a lot of our maintenance staff and recreation staff were furloughed. Because we're trying to lock everything down, keep everybody healthy, furlough those particular people that weren't working inside Manners, and keep our operation going. But all of our, what we call knowledge-based workers, this is, you know, are people who are working in the office, you know, resales, leasing, recreation, technology, even emergency maintenance services, the executive team, of course, accounting, payroll, all these other department, budget, project management, all these departments continue to operate during the shutdown. This is all work that we're doing behind the scenes, and not in the Manners and out in the field. So taking a 60-year-old management company and flipping around and getting all of those employees to work from home was very, very, very challenging. We essentially had to do, a year's worth of work in 3 weeks to take everybody to work from, to switch up our bandwidth, because you have to think about internet is kind of like a river. It runs one way. We had a very big river running into the building so everybody can utilize the internet while they're at work. But since we flipped everything around and everybody started working from home, what we had to do is we had to turn the direction of the river and take the river, instead of it flowing into the building, have the river flow out of the building. So that caused a tremendous amount of chaos, not just here at the community center, but all of our business operations here in the organization. And doing so, I mean, we besides for that, what we also seen in the homes was a real tremendous increase in utilization out there in the field. As Joan could probably attest, we've been looking at replacing some critical cable modem termination systems, what we call cable internet, for lack of better terms, internet equipment to provide internet to the homes. We have 2 of these large scale units that were already scheduled to be replaced at the beginning of this year because they were 15-year-old technology. And so, but once COVID hit, these things started going out. The first one went out, we lost internet in half the community. We hurry up and luckily enough, we got all the electrical components, all the wiring, everything was already in place with the new units. We're just waiting for our go live date. Thank goodness, because once that old unit blew out, we couldn't recover it. So we had to escalate our timetable to replace that equipment 3 weeks ahead of time. But it was already staged, it was already in place, most of the work was already done. So we had about a couple hours worth of outages. That was in late March, I do believe. And I'll be darned, and then the other unit, the other half of the community, 2 weeks later, it blew out. Again, that was already it was already a piece of equipment that we intended to replace, but because of the pressure we added 300 new residents using the internet services. Everybody started being locked down, everybody streaming video, everybody looking at online news. It just completely crushed us across the board. We are always looking at the utilization of our residents at home, looking at the bandwidth and utilization they're looking at home. And we always make a decision that once utilization gets up to 80% capacity, we jump to the next level of service. We bring in more circuits, we bring in more bandwidth to help spread the load so everybody has an adequate internet services. And that usually that happens over a 6 to 8 month period. Well, once the lockdown happened and COVID hit, that just turned our business model completely up, and we essentially had to double the amount of internet bandwidth we had. We had to pretty much replace all of our switching, our 2 new CMTSs. So essentially right now what we're working on is a completely separate, completely different platform that you're running on today than it was 6 months ago. Now, all that was scheduled to be replaced and upgraded, but instead of it going over a year period, we did it in about 3 weeks. So it was quite a hair on fire experience. So that's kind of what we got going on at the home. But here at the in the resident services, what really got my attention, and I'm sorry I have one, bear with me one second. One thing that came to our attention right away during the shutdown is how much we were still relying on the yellow inner office envelope. You know the one I'm talking about, the yellow inner office envelope. You got the little string and you wrap it around the little string. You got the guy comes around, the guy comes around the mail cart, picks up all your little envelopes and travels them around to the whole entire company. Well, we started calling that the COVID cart, right? Because anytime we didn't want to share any paperwork, everybody was really nervous about if we were having to share, take my inner office envelope, stick it in the mailroom cart, I give it to the mailroom guy, he delivers it 2 floors up to another department. Now, potentially that item could have COVID on it. So we were really, really concerned about that. So what we were looking at doing is like, how can we replace not just that yellow inner office envelope, but look at every single piece of paper that we have floating around the office. What kind of paperwork are you having on your desktop? What kind of forms are we handing out to resident services? And then what we really had to come down to, working with our different department leaders and our department heads, we need to reimagine everything that we're doing here, every single piece of paper, every single process, everything that we're doing here in this organization, find out why are we doing it that way? Well, first of all, let's make sure we're documenting it. Let's make sure we document our essential services, our critical services. We make sure we know who's doing what, and then why are they doing those services, and how are they doing those services, and what can we do to make them more efficient, to make them paperless, and ultimately to be able to be more efficient so we can reduce overhead to ultimately save money. So that's what I've really been working on. On my bullet points here on my spreadsheet. Telecommuting, that's always been a no-no here at the village. We always want our employees on site. But because of this particular situation, again, we had to get everybody working from home, connecting remotely, and we've been doing that. I'm going to say, I'm giving us a C as far as connectivity, because everybody at home has their own internet connection, their own different type of PC. So it depends on how strong of an internet connection they have is how well they're performing here at work. So I'm giving us about a C, C plus, B minus, because we do still have issues with people getting dropped, their phones getting dropped, and their email, their computer's not working. So, but by and large, we're holding down the fort. We're getting things done. Business continuity is remaining the same. We had to postpone some of our board meetings until we got all of our board members up to speed on using our GoToMeeting session. We had to make sure all of our team members out there knew how to use Granicus so they could stream the videos, stream those meetings online. Not just our board meetings, but all of our committee meetings now are being streamed online as well. So that was quite the challenge to get that up and running. And so it's been a process, right? And it's all about the process improvement. Looking at every single process, procedure, why are we doing it, what we can do to make it better, and most importantly, make it digital, so we don't have to have a mail cart, somebody giving somebody envelopes, so they have to drive around the community 3 or 4 times a day, handing people stacks of paper. So we're looking at every one of those. Again, another thing that we have here on organizational and standard operating procedures. I think one thing, the concerns that a lot of the boards had, that I had as well, is we have, there's like 30 some work centers, but there's mainly like 6 or 7 different main divisions. And we have each work center, each division have its own director and their own managers. And so we started taking a look at it. It's like, okay, let's take a look at, let's document what are your most critical, essential, and critical functions. What can we do to document these? And we started collecting all this information, started collecting all this data to put together a reference book for not just the individual departments, but for the whole company as a whole. And then what we quickly found out was like, wow, each individual department is documenting and handling their processes in slightly different ways, if not a lot of different ways. So what we've done is we've been able to organize all of our standard operating procedures for our essential function and critical functions into a master organizational, what we call a standard operating procedure document. So now each individual department, each individual division has all of their primary functions documented in such a way where it doesn't matter which department you're in. You can go to another department, pull up with that operating procedures guidelines, and be able to have a general idea of how that operation is run. What we did is we identified, I think it was about 1,750 unique, essential, and critical functions that we had documented to make sure that that we had a handle on those, just in case. Because the biggest concern for me, coming from a military background, was being able to have thinking about first, second, third order impact. What would happen if all of our frontline employees, we had a wave of people that went down sick, and now you had to have your B team players step in to run the organization. So my whole big thing was about business continuity. What's going to happen if we lose the first string? What's going to happen if we lose the second string? What's going to happen when we put the JV team in there to operate this organization? So I went on a tear. I was panicking for several months until we get a good handle on that. But it was time well spent. Everybody, put their heads together to get this done. Still a lot more work to do on it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying it's a hell of a lot better than what we have. So I'm really proud of the work that the team has done to get that done. The other things, we never realized that we thought this would be a 3-month shutdown, maybe a 2-month shutdown. I don't think anybody had any type of an idea that this is going to go 6, 8, 9 months, possibly a year. We don't know. So we already started even though we're running this the cable television and internet services upgrade. We got that going on. We have the organizational standard operating procedures. I got the administrative team getting that all going. Simultaneously, I'm working with HR and security to figure out what's the reopening plan. What are we going to do when we start having our residents come back in this facility? We know that the average age of the community, I think, is about 74, 75 years old, which is the primary demographic of the current virus that's going around out there. So what can we do to protect our residents and protect our staff simultaneously while we open up? What's that going to look like? So we went through every single high impact or high touch work surface in the entire community center to put up barriers and made ergonomic adjustments to try making sure that there is protection for our residents and for our staff members. So when they do start coming into the office and we start interacting with our residents, we have some type of barrier and shield between the two, so we're not spraying vapor, to be nice, spraying vapor on one another. So that's something, I'm going to show you some pictures later. So that's been a big challenge. HR heads up, thank to HR and our safety team. We used a third-party acrylic company down the street to put together some high-speed, low-cost, very flexible sneeze guards and so on and so forth throughout the community center to get ready for everybody to come back. Now, we may have jumped the gun on that a little bit because here we thought it was going to be a 3-month shutdown. Here we are, month 6, and still going. So I'll show you some pictures about that later. Then another thing we started taking a look at is the front counter. In resident services here, we have that large front counter area. Not large, just 9 windows, not that big. But we started taking a look at what are we doing up there? What can we do to make that area more efficient? Because I came down here and I thought, well, this thing's not good. Every single work session had its own cart with about 100 different paper forms. And so residents would come up they would come into the building, they would check in the kiosk, they'd wait, they'd get called up to the window for a service. Our team members would hand them a form. They would go fill out the form. Then they go stand in line again to turn the form in. Then our team would do the data entry of the form and then take that form and throw it in the trash. I'm like, why are we doing that? It's silly. Let's not do that anymore. How do we make all of these? How do we make it so that when we have residents that come to the window, yes, check in, that's important, check in, let's direct them to the window that can help them. And then once you're at the window, what can we do just by utilizing 2 pieces of information, your last name and your resident ID, and just handle the transaction in real time and then print off a receipt and give you a copy of the receipt of the transaction. It could be anything from a credit card transaction, to a service order, to a staff assignment, to adding a guest, anything we want to be able to do, instead of having residents fill out a bunch of information only for us to key it in. How about you just tell us information, we'll key it in, and then we'll print you off a receipt and we'll give you the receipt, and completely flip on its script. That way, we think it's gonna save everybody a bunch of time. So we're really interested and excited about once the community center opens back up, resident services open back up. We want to really see how we can make that experience for you much better than it ever has been before, by not having you have to fill out all these crazy forms. Let's get to the window, let's handle the transaction, and make it efficient and effective for everybody. Now, that's no mean feat. You may or may not know, but because we are using that little kiosk system, the check-in thing, we have anywhere between 4,000 and 6,000 visitors that come to the community center and to resident services every month. So that's quite the bit of foot traffic. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes once we open up the community center. Okay. Anybody got any questions about that? I have some opportunity. Maybe I can continue to go, or I can answer questions. I have a few more slides for you. No? Okay, cool. So not only do we want to reimagine everything, for me, I want to improve everything, right? Everything I touch, everything we do, everything we look at, we just want to take a look at it from a fresh set of eyes and just ask, why are we doing that? Why? How come it's taking so long? And one of the things, being down here in resident services, that I noticed right away is what we call, you may not be familiar with this right here, we call them more work needed tickets, multi-ticket service orders. What this really is involved is, if you have a work that's being done in your manor, the perfect example is a moisture intrusion event. When we have a moisture intrusion event, there's the initial service call for moisture intrusion. We send out the inspection team, then the dry down team, then the repair team, then the carpet guy, I guess the carpentry guys, the paint guys, the plumbing guys, so on and so forth. So that one event could generate 5 or 6 different tickets, right? Because since we have a union shop of tradesmen, we don't just hand a moisture intrusion event off to one single department. That moisture intrusion event is actually handled by multiple departments, depending on the damage. But what we saw was a very archaic paper-based system whereby the moisture intrusion event, it would happen, they'd issue a ticket, they'd go out there, do their work, they would turn their work back in, hey, more work needed, turn it over to the supervisor had to scan that document in, the document would go over to the data processing team, they'd have to key it in, and then they would have to create another ticket. That delay time between the initial work to the more work needed, sometimes it would be taken, depending on the weekend, it could take 2 or 3 days before that next ticket, maybe even sometimes longer, 2, 3, maybe 4 days for that next ticket to get scheduled. And so this would take this moisture intrusion event and string it out to a 30-day period, maybe less. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the idea. Because if it's taking 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days between, tickets, and it takes 4 or 5 tickets, you can see the time really adds up. And there was a lot of duplication of work, duplication of scanning, duplication of data entry in this process. But I'm like, we're not doing that anymore. Here's what we're going to do. As soon as that more work needed ticket is actually in the system, it's been completed, that ticket is turned in, we created an OCR document imaging solution where, as soon as the supervisor scans that completed ticket in, it automatically spins up a new ticket already. And so what we're doing is, like, anytime by the end of the day, that first day that ticket is turned in, we have our more work needed team already within day 1, before the end of the business day. If a more work needed ticket comes in, we're making best effort to call the residents to be able to reschedule that next appointment. So instead of having a 3 or 4 day delay between scheduling tickets for multiple trades, we're trying to get that down to 1 day. And so taking that moisture intrusion event that was taking 30 days, can we get it down to a week? Can we get it down to 5 days? Can we get it down to 4? How fast can we turn around those tickets? So that's been a huge smashing success. And we got that done just before the shutdown. And this thing has saved us, because that was one of the first digital processes that I put into place to streamline our organization to be able to get that going. And it's been working amazing. So not only that, but it's a tracking mechanism. So I can show you, I don't have an example for you, I can show you every single more work needed ticket that comes in every single day, which ones by the end of the day, which ones weren't scheduled, and then following up the next day, which ones that we still have to follow up from the day before. So I have everything on a day-to-day tracking mechanism. So I know when I look out there, oh, check it out. We have about 30 or 40 more work needed tickets that need to be rescheduled. Let's get somebody on that. Let's keep that down less than 5 every day, right? Nobody's ever perfect. You're never going to get it perfect. But if we can get it down where we're super efficient, and by the end of every single day, we can schedule all the work that we need for that next ticket, it's been a big winner. It's been very helpful. Another digital process that we've had to work on is with our resale packages, with our board approval process. As you can imagine, we have these resale packages. Some of them are they're 115 pages of just all paperwork. And so our team, what they were doing is collecting all this paperwork, taking this, taking this resale package, putting it in a yellow inter-office envelope, putting it in a mail cart, and then somebody traveling around the building with this resale package. And I'm like, that's crazy. And then trying to track down board members to sign the resale packages. And I'm sure, Joan, you can attest that. You can't always get somebody. So what we've done is we created we digitized this process. Instead of making this a whole entire giant paper-based system, what we do is all the documents we get in, we have our resales coordinator, they're scanning that whole entire package electronically. That now we're forwarding it to the board members electronically, and we put together an approval matrix whereby we know here's all the board members or Third or United, and who is going to be our signatories. So what we've been able to do, let's identify who the signatories are. Let's digitize the process, and through a program called DocuSign, you may have used it in your life in some of your transactions, DocuSign, to route these documents electronically to the board members so they can review the board packages. They can see that our resales manager, our resale coordinator, they've signed off on their bits. The membership coordinator, they signed off on their bits. The resale manager, they sign off on their rebits. And then now we route it to the board members so we can get 3 signatures from the board. And there's some back and forth there as well. And this is what's really slick is once that document is approved, it's automatically routed to our document imaging system without having to, once again, somebody take that paper-based document, put it in a scanner, and rescan everything back in twice, because we were scanning that package in 2 or 3 different times. I'm like, right, let's scan it into once up front. Let's route it electronically. And at the end of the day, when we want to store it for archival purposes, let's keep that same electronic document and let's dump it into our document imaging system without anybody even having to touch the document. And so we've been able to do that. Again, saving a ton of time on multiple scanning, running the documents back and forth upstairs, 20 times, and then ultimately archiving that document. So another process that we're doing, it's not perfect. There's a lot of room for improvement to get rid of all the paper-based forms altogether. We want to make it all electronic. But what I'm suggesting is we are adapting to the new environment, getting those electronic signatures that we need, and slowly but surely reshaping the way that we're doing business when it comes to the resales, as well as leasing as well. Another electronic system or subsystem we put together is all of our service order requests and reporting. A lot of times there would be what we were doing in the past when somebody'd have some type of damage or some type of a history of work orders in their manner. They used to have to fill out a form saying, hey, I need to see all the work orders for my property, and I want to be able to see them. I want to see all your notes. I want to see all the financials. I want to see everything that had to do with that. So what would happen, they'd have to fill out a form. They'd turn in the form to resident services. Our resident services would pull up that account, and they would hunt and peck for all these individual work orders. They would print off all the individual work orders. Then they would take those work orders and they would log them into a spreadsheet. Well, here's all the work orders. Here's the start date. Here's the completion date. Here's the notes. Here's the type of work was done and who did the work. Doing this all over and over, painstakingly, hundreds of requests every month, manually, over and over and over again. And I look at that stuff, I'm like, that's absolutely crazy. We have all this information in the system. Why don't we create a report or two and let, program in such a way where, resident wants to do a request for service. You don't have to fill out the form anymore. Just come up to the window. Hey, I need a service order request. Can you give me all my service orders? Now it's instantly pull up your account, push the report button. It prints off a copy of all your tickets, and it prints off a a summary page. Here's all your tickets. Here's your start. Here's your stop. Here's your completion date. Here's the work that's been completed. And here who did the work within seconds. Instead of taking somebody, 20, 30, maybe 40 minutes to put all this thing together, we're doing it instantaneously. So again, freeing up time, freeing up resources to allow people to spend more time interacting with our clients versus doing back-end paperwork, which the machine should be doing. Machines should be doing all the back-end paperwork. So I think that's pretty cool. So I thought that was exciting. And you may be wondering, well, how come we weren't doing that 20 years ago? Yeah, I have the same question too. But we're on it. I'm working on it. I'm working for you guys, and I'm working on it now. All right. Give me a break. I've only been down here 6 months. So we're working on it. Okay. So another really cool thing we did was again, an archaic approval process for all our invoices. We have all of our division heads, all of our managers, they're doing all kinds of projects, all kinds of work through our purchase requisition system. We're dealing with thousands of different vendors. Those vendors send in invoices. And again, they'd send in paper invoices. They'd go to the mailroom. The mailroom guy would take the incubation cart, roll it around the community, hand out all these paper invoices for our team to have to print off a check request form, manually fill it out, staple it together, put it back in the yellow interoffice envelope, route it over to AP clerks and put it all in. The checks are printed. They go to Betty. Betty signs off on them, yada, yada. It's just like, this is crazy. Why are we doing that? Now what we've done is like, now all those invoices are coming into a centralized location. The invoices are digitized. They're emailed to all the different department managers. The department managers are using an Adobe Acrobat, an Adobe PDF type tool that they're able to digitize, pull up the digital copy of the invoice. They're able to fill out the information. They're able to code those documents, GL, job code, department code, funding source, so on and so forth. They're able to code all of those invoices, and they're able to digitally sign those invoices, and then we route them electronically to the AP department, and they kick off their electronic process to do the approval, do the entry, and then ultimately print those checks off without having to run the incubator card, the mailroom card around the whole entire company doing this, doing all those invoices electronically now, which is another time saver for us. Another really good tool that we've been working on is, and you're going to start seeing these reports, if you're on the board, you're going to start seeing these reports in your board packages, is the leasing process automation that we've been working on. Oh brother, I have to spare the details. But what they showed me, what they were doing, how they're tracking all of the leasing fees, the additional occupancy fees, the ID card fees, all the different fees. They are tracking the leasing fees on one spreadsheet, tracking the the expiring leases and the new leases and on another spreadsheet. Then they had 4 or 5 different spreadsheets all over the place trying to track all this leasing and all this, the leasing transactions, as well as the leasing transactions of the leases themselves, as well as the financial traction, all outside of our main core computer system. So we've been able to work with them, stuff all that back into the system, where now they're just doing data entry into one system. And at the end of the day, push go, prints off a copy of the lease agreement, prints off a copy of the financial report that gets routed to the, not printed off. It generates a electronic copy that electronic report, summary report. It's a daily report, weekly report, and a monthly report that's automatically sent to accounting department so they can reconcile the charges that are now being applied to the resident's account. Before, all of these forms were being filled out. They'd have to be routed to accounting. Accounting would do all the data entry, do all the GL transactions, do all the transactions, and then post it to the general ledger. We're not doing that anymore either. Well, when they're doing the leasing transactions down here, all those different fees I'd mentioned, once they do input all the stuff in the leasing department, it automatically routes to accounting, posts to the resident's account after verification, and then all the documents are routed electronically. So again, we knocked out that yellow interoffice envelope. We knocked out the manual data entry for the accounting department. Again, making sure that we're using our assets the best we possibly can to not do the back-end paperwork, but to interact with our clients, interact with our residents, interact with our staff members, and spend the important times interfacing with other people versus doing the manual data entry. Let the machines do the data entry, right? So that's another thing. This is just within the resident services side of the house. And I know that each individual department, both in broadband and transportation and accounting and the GM's office, everybody's been looking for ways to do everything more electronically. So for me, this particular event, this has been a catalyst event. This has been a I guess, catalyst event for us, because these are all the things that I always wanted to get done, but because it's hard to move people away from what they're comfortable with. This has helped me force technology and process improvement on the organization, because not only was it needed, because it was absolutely critical to business continuity and business operations to keep the lights on, right? To keep the financials going, keep the lockbox, the assessment operation going, and keep cable TV, internet service, all that, keep everything rolling. So pretty proud of that work. That's why the rest of my hair is gone. Okay, this is fun. Here's some pictures from the head end. So from the front counter. What was driving me crazy before is we'd have people who would come in, they'd fill out these forms. Now I have somebody sitting in a chair, handle the transaction, print off a copy of your receipt, of your work order, your ticket, your credit card receipt, hand it to you. They were using these little booklets, little handwritten receipt booklets, handwriting receipt booklets, tearing it out of the book, handing it to people. I'm like, that's crazy. Do the dated transaction and then print off a receipt and hand the receipt to the customer. Why are we filling out this notebook? This is doing a couple different things. One, it's modernized, and two, when you're writing out the notebooks, you can't reconcile a notebook. Now that we're doing all the transactions, I can reconcile any kind of cash, any type of checks that somebody's received. Now I have a digital transaction. Now we're able to match up with not just what's on the homeowner's account, but what's been posted to the general ledger and accounts receivable side. So it's been a real good tool for us to marry up, making sure that we're matching up apples to apples on every transaction we're doing at the front desk. Before they didn't have that. They were just filling out forms, manual like spreadsheets, forms. But now everything is going to be entered on this computer, generate a receipt from that printer. Another thing that we had here is when somebody comes up when vendors, students, or residents come up for gate passes, we had one little printer that we had. This is a pass printer for our gate passes. One little printer for the whole entire downstairs to use. I'm like, that's crazy. Why don't we just make sure that we connect two workstations to one printer? So now when I'm here working this desk right here, I got my phone right here, I got my printer for my documents, and I got my pass printer right here. All I got to do is swivel in this chair back and forth. Instead of me getting up, walking across the room, going to another printer, or getting up, walking across the room, grabbing a printer pass. Now each individual work center, once they're in that chair, they're working. They don't need to leave until they go on break or until they go on lunch, because everything that they're going to need to do their operation is going to be within hand reach. And again, I got rid of all the paper. All the forms are digitized now. All these pieces now, we're really hoping to really streamline that piece. You can see now. You can see kind of same different angle here, and you can kind of see how every single work center, before, each individual work center was set up differently. People doing something different. I've done that. Every single desktop computer is the same. Every single mouse is the same. Every single keyboard, every single printer, the whole thing's uniform. And there's going to be methodologies to this. Instead of everybody doing their own thing, you're going to only be able to do these processes one way, and that's my way. And we're going to get super, super, super efficient at that. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Okay, next thing, resident safety. These aren't really good pictures, and I kind of glossed over it on the first one. Resident safety. We know that because of the COVID.
Can I ask a question, Chuck, before you go on?
Yeah.
Who checks the accuracy of the reports that are going around? It's human error. What do we do about that?
Well, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the data. We have team leads down here. We have 2 team leads that reconcile all cash and all checks down at the front desk. And then once it goes to the accounting department, the accounting department actually puts those transactions into the accounting system. We run daily reconciliation, weekly reconciliation, and monthly reconciliation. So we know that the transactions that are happening down here are actually matching with the accounting department. So we're reconciling that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So we got a pretty cool, pretty slick program going on doing that. And we're letting the system do it, right? We're not.
But you don't have a proofreader or anything like that to
No,
check
it's,
human input.
what we're doing is we're balancing numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
Not a problem. So what you're seeing here, you may not barely see it here, but you see this plexiglass shield. See these are chains. It's kind of what you see at the supermarket. All of our various work surfaces that have interaction with our residents, we've put together a very cost-effective, very simple, lightweight sneeze guards in all of our high-touch areas like this. This gives you an example. See, all of these have, you can kind of see it's glaring right there. So that when we do have folks, this happens to be the part of the resales department right here. When folks do come up, there's just enough space here to trade documents back and forth. But just when you're communicating back and forth, we're really trying to put that sneeze guard in between our residents and our clients. Our staff members and our residents, to make sure that we're trying to be as healthy as we possibly can. Now, this is an interesting picture. It's hard to see because it's so clear. You can't even barely tell it's there. Pretend I'm a resident and I walk up to a counter. And so now here is a little area that's cut out on the bottom, so I can actually trade documents back and forth here. But you can see there's a sneeze guard in between the resident and the employees here. To, again, we still need to be able to conduct business by trading documents if need be, but the vapor, the primary culprit from this virus is spread through droplets and vapor. And so what we're trying to do is block that as much as we possibly can. So we put, once you get a chance to see, come in and visit, you'll be able to see the whole rotunda is also blocked off there. And what we have here as well, you can't really see, it's so minimal, you can't even see it here. There's the sneeze guard, it's up. You can't even tell it's there, right? You can barely just see the cutouts right here. So it's very soft, very lightweight, very inexpensive. The local acrylic company came in and did a wonderful job for us, and we've got that all over the place. So it's looking pretty good. And oops, sorry about that. And that's what we got there. I have one more topic of discussion before we get to questions. One more topic of discussions, and I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. It's some issues, some systemic issues that we have here internally in organization from a volume standpoint. I get a lot of phone calls from residents. We see letters to the editor. We get emails from and concerns from board members and from the GM's office, CEO's office, in regards to
Chuck, you might stop sharing your presentation if we're at a questions page. You can come back to that later.
I will. I sure will. I got one more thing I want to show you.
Okay.
But the deal is getting questions about when I call, nobody's picking up the phone, or I'm calling and I'm holding too long, or I'm calling, and nobody's picking up the phone. And I've been really watching it, pay attention. I'm really watching that, really looking at the numbers. And I wanted to share with you what we're up against here and what we needed. We've got to be able to fix this, because I want to share my screen here. Okay. So don't be scared of all the different numbers here. This is a trailing. This is resident services call queue. This is our tracking mechanism for our phone calls here in resident services. We have a very high speed system. I know when every single call in, I know who's calling in, I know when they're calling in, and I know why they're calling in. But the challenge is here, look at our key indicators for the last 30 days. In the last 30 days, residents.
Chuck, we're just seeing a screen that says questions.
Oh, interesting.
You have to press share.
Okay, looks a little busy. Golden Rain Foundation. This is our key resident services phone call tracking system, right? So we know we take a lot of phone calls. Look, here's the trailing 30 days, right? 35,000 phone calls in the last trailing 30 days. If in order for me to answer 100% of these calls on the first ring, I probably need about 20 people answering the phones 20 people answering phones. We don't have 20 people answering phones. I don't think you want to be paying for 20 people answering phones. What we did though, it's kind of, I don't know if you can see, does it look kind of small for you? I might be able to blow this up a little bit. That's probably as big as I'm going to get it for you. So you can see out of the 35,000 phone calls that we have, I have about 10 people. You have about 10 people answering the phones, by the way. With those 10 people, we answered 26,577 calls, right? Now, keep in mind, we have, 12,736 units, right? And you start looking at the call volume, you start thinking, we started taking, I'm always looking at these numbers. I'm a data guy, right? Okay, out of these 35,000 phone calls, if we're answering 26,000 of them, that means we're roughly answering 75% of the phone calls, right? But what does that look like? That means 25% of the phone calls, the people, what are they doing? They're abandoning the phone call. They're calling, they're call, hang up, call, hang up, call, hang up, call, hang up, until they get somebody on the phone. Even with that average, I'm talking about average, over the whole entire month, there are peak periods that are longer and there are slower periods that are shorter, but the average wait time is 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I challenge you to call your bank tomorrow and see how long that you're going to be on hold. I'm with Bank of America, and I'm lucky if it takes 30 or 40 minutes to get somebody on hold. So an average call time, 5 minutes, I don't think it's great. We want it to be better, but with the 10 agents that I have, it's not bad. But here's what's happening with what's happening with these 25% of the calls is some of these folks, and I have the numbers and I'll share with you, some of the same folks, we have about the top 100 people, some of the folks call resident services 80 times a month, 70 times a month, 50 times a month. We have like 100 people that call resident services over 50 times a month. And it's not that they're trying to, it's not like we're creating 50 work orders for them or the money workers. What they do is they call, hang up, call, hang up, call, hang up. They spend all day long calling and hang up, calling and hang up until somebody picks up the phone on the first ring, right? First ring. I'm trying to reach out to those folks just to say, be patient. Instead of you spending the whole day calling and hanging up, if you would have just spent 5 minutes on hold, somebody's going to be able to get to your phone call. Now, that's not always true because I'm going to show you, I don't know if I have that here. No, I don't have it. Where is that at? Bear with me. Here we go. Here's what the challenge is. Our most busiest time of day is that everybody always calls between 9 and 10 in the morning. So people wait, they wake, and so you can see, and 11 is when we get our most calls. So 9, 10, 11, people always call, excuse me. So you can see it, look at 11, you can see 11 a.m., 11 right here. The bar in purple are the phone calls that are being answered. The bar in green are the number of people, that's the people who are hanging up. Those are the abandoned phone calls. So what I'm trying to do is I want to try educating our residents that if you need service, everything, if you call later in the afternoon at 4 o'clock, almost 80%, 70, most of the phone calls are getting answered. But everybody calls between 10, 11, and 12. These are the people who are experiencing longer wait times. It just happens. It's just the nature of our business here. We try ramping up and adding more staff during this time frame because we know what our peak period is. But guess when our peak period is? Peak period is when I have to send people to lunch. And so I'm always down. We send out 2 people at lunch at a time. We stagger them throughout from 11 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. I have to stagger these people out. So what we're trying to do is get people to think about if you're calling, hang up, and you're finding difficulty calling in the morning time, let's try calling in the afternoon. That might work out better for us. Now, what my goal is for what I think is a respectable thing is I want to make sure that we get our call answer rate to a decent, respectable industry average, about 85% answer rate with about a 3-minute hold time. That's what I'm shooting for. But in order for me to do that, I'm trying to tackle it from 2 different ways. First way I'm trying to tackle it is to make sure I have the right resources and in the chair at the right time answering the most amount of phone calls. So I'm doing my part. I'm doing that from my end. I'm juggling resources all day long. But I also need to be able to do a community outreach to our team members, to our residents out there, to get them to say, don't call and hang up 25, 50 times. We had one person, I won't even tell her name, Joan, you know her, I'll talk to you later. She called and hang up 83 times in one day. 80, and by the way, this is an old board member, by the way. I won't say who it is. 83 times in one day. And all she had to do was just wait on hold for 5 minutes. Called 83 times in one day. So the combination of me getting the right resources on the phones and a combination of me reducing the number of phone calls that are coming in. Because here's the kicker. Out of those 35,000 phone calls that came in, I'm only doing about 9,000 work orders. So I'm taking, it's a 3-to-1 ratio on the number of phone calls to the number of work orders I have. I don't like that. That's so inefficient. I'd rather see us get 20,000 phone calls with 15,000 work orders so we can narrow that gap. So it's not repeat call, repeat call, repeat call. So I've identified where we have this particular, this trouble spot with the repeat phone calls, not having the right people in the chairs and not matching them up. If I get 5 phone calls, I want that to be 4 work orders. If I get 20,000 phone calls, I want that to be 15,000 work orders. But getting 35,000 phone calls with only 10,000 work orders, I got a problem there, right? People are calling, and we're not being able to get anything done for them for that phone call. So that's what I'm really focusing on right now. And we're looking at all different types of strategies to do that. But as you can see right now, it's really tough. Really tough right now because we have had some illnesses, people out for long term. I can't get into any more of that. They've come back. We've had people resign. We had to terminate people. So it's been a whirlwind of turnover down here in resident services. And I have to tell you, trying to get new people off the street and get them trained up on how to answer the phones around here is very, very troublesome. It's not like I can hire somebody today and put them on the phone tomorrow and have them even know anything about what we do here. We got about a 30-day turnaround time to get somebody up to speed on answering the phone calls because we're supporting 32 different work centers, multiple different departments, plumbing, electrical, carpentry, moisture intrusion, pest control, waste management, trash pickup, elevator outages, you name anything. Like I said, there's 1,750 different things that we're tracking for you that an agent has to be able to take on the phone while they're here. That's including broadband, internet, the whole gamut. So what we do is we bring these agents on, we give them the easy stuff first, gate clearance calls. Then we'll hand them some maintenance calls. And then once we get them handled maintenance calls, then we'll give them program and moisture intrusion. Then ultimately we'll get them into the technology stuff with the broadband, set-top boxes, internet stuff, so on and so forth. So in order for me to get somebody off the street to be able to take the whole gamut of phone calls, because we have CSR agents 1, 2, and 3. Agents number 1 are entry-level folks. Agent number 2 are our seasoned folks. Agent number 3, there are our team leads. We got 2 team leads we've got the team divided in A and B shifts. So it takes time, right? In order for me to get somebody to maximize that, it's a good 6 months to be able to handle all that because there's 1,700 different things they have to remember how to do. So it's quite the operation. There's a lot of things we do down here. It's challenging, I have to say. It's pretty challenging. But with that, I've been wagging my tongue enough. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and kind of share my experiences over the last 6 months and what we've been doing for you, and then see if I can answer any questions.
Well, Tom, I have listened with interest, and I want to pause for applause, but I don't know how we do that other than maybe hold your hands up to the screen and nice work. Nice work. We really appreciate all the effort and appreciate that you're going to continue to make us more efficient.
Right.
So,
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Sure. Do you see everybody check it out? Do you see the little hand in the window? Watch when I
yes,
hit.
I did. I saw that. That was cool.
You have a little button called reactions down at the bottom of the screen, so you can hit that.
that's right.
Anyhow, sorry. Yes, you can ask any.
Hi, Chuck. This is Deborah Dotson. I'm going to be joining the Third Mutual Board in November. And I have a couple of questions. One is, when you were talking about the hold times, and that's actually, those numbers are phenomenal and unbelievable at the same time. So oftentimes when you do call these entities on customer service, they have a way to call back. Have we considered a callback method?
Yes, we've tried it a couple different times. The problem is we don't have enough. If I dedicate somebody to do the call backs, that takes somebody off the line for me to answer an incoming phone call.
Okay.
So it didn't seem. We'll try it again. Well, I'm game for anything. We do have that capability. We tried it one time. And it just seems like the
Yeah.
phone calls, we just didn't have enough. Once we had most people on the outbound phone calls, then we had nobody answering the inbound phone calls. And so
Yeah.
it went lopsided away. So it's a balancing act. And again, out of the volume of phone calls you have, we're scaled. You can look at any call center software to leverage those numbers. If you look at 35,000 phone calls, plug those numbers in, what you want your answer rate to be, I'm saying 85%. We need 50. Really, if you need 15 people on the phone.
Right. The other thing is there a way for them to hear, okay, your hold time is approximately 15 minutes or 5 minutes? Is there any way to do that or not?
Yes.
Or you're caller number 10 in the queue?
We have both. We've tried both. And I'm always game to visit everything, because what happens is people will call up, your hold time 7 minutes. They're like, what the hell? I'm not answering it. They call, they hang up, hang up. Person. So I've tried it both ways, but I'm game to work with you once you come on board, and we can set up a time. It's like, okay, check it out. Here's what we'll do. Starting October 1, we're going to try it this way, and let's see what those numbers look like at the end of the month. I'm game for anything, because I've been bouncing these numbers back and forth like crazy.
That's just, I'm just astounded by the numbers, by the way. This has been a great meeting. I have learned so much. And I might have missed this, but when you were showing the plexiglass in the community center, now that Orange County is in a different tier, do we have any idea or not of when we might let a number of people in?
I have what the scuttlebutt is, but that's above my pay grade. I'm not making it. But I hear, don't hold me to this. God, don't tell on me, anybody, if you're on the board. I think they're going to keep this thing closed down to the end of first quarter next year.
That's about right.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. But yeah, if you spend any time out in the social media world, they're just bashing the you-know-what out of us.
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry.
Everywhere. I mean, social media.
I agree. Safe than sorry is my idea too.
Right. Yeah. Good news is we got some really interesting technology stuff. Now, keep in mind, I put my IT hat on. We got some really cool stuff going on with recreation. Where we've been able to push the technology there for residents to be able to go online and be able to book a swim lane. Any of the tennis sports, you're able to go online and book a time there. Instead of trying to call in and make an appointment, you can book those times online. Also, any reservations now that you're going to be able to do those online.
Yeah.
And next, two things we're working on is for the Performing Arts Center, you'll be able to book your tickets online, and then ultimately at the golf pro shop, we're working on a system where residents will be able to go online and book tee times. So again, this has been a catalyst for me to push this technology because we've done 5 years worth of stuff in 6 months. I tell you.
Oh no, I come out of technology field. I'm an educator now, but I was in technology for a number of years. So I love technology, and I like to hear the more automated, the better. I know that some of our residents struggle with technology, but reality is it does make things much more efficient.
There are some other questions on the floor.
Joan?
Okay, quick question. Besides all the information that you have to give out, are you also answering questions on COVID? For example, where can I get a test, a COVID test? Are they doing questions like that, or is there a place to do it?
Yeah, if you go to the Laguna Woods Village website, I do believe there's right in the middle of the screen, there's a COVID button. It takes you to the COVID homepage. There's all kinds of information on there.
I haven't found a test location, but okay.
Yeah. Okay. Test location. I'll write that down and ask the team members. Actually, you know what? I've been driving around. I live in Westminster, and I've seen them. I have a few on different corners, and I've seen there's one at Kaiser down the street, but I haven't seen any around here. Actually, I've been driving around. I haven't seen any.
Test centers, you can go to any of the labs, the labs.
Can I ask
You mean
a
like Quest?
question?
Yes,
Like
quick,
Quest?
Yes,
Quest?
Quest is one, yes.
Bob.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask an internet question. Basically, I've been going sometimes 2 or 3 Zoom meetings a day. And when you get a meeting like this and you have, I don't know how many people we have, but quite a few, is it helpful if we turn our cameras off? Like when you gave your presentation, which was, I don't know, I guess an hour or something, should we turn our cameras off and would that save bandwidth?
You know what? It seems like with Zoom, it's not really an issue, but I have to tell you, GoToMeeting, it is an issue. It is an issue with GoToMeeting. And I've noticed that too, because when I use GoToMeeting, because unfortunately, I have to say, that was my call using GoToMeeting. It was my bad. I probably should have went with Zoom. I should have. But when I'm using GoToMeeting, I have to use a headset. I got to call in and connect my computer in order for me to get a good session.
Well, I mean, my point is, and again, I'm also an ex-IT guy, whatever, but the point is, if we as residents could help in some way, I noticed you said there's a strain on the IT infrastructure. And if that was the case, that would be an easy fix because we're all on Zoom all the time. And I know I take classes on Zoom, and most of the time I'm just listening, so I shut the camera off. So why? I don't know if that's a help or not, though. I wish somebody would clarify that. And if so, then we can let all the residents know.
I would say, right. I would say what I've noticed, it hasn't been a problem with Zoom, but I had noticed that with GoToMeeting, turning off the cameras does help. But there's different algorithms. I'm not for sure about Zoom, but I know for GoToMeeting, absolutely it does help when you turn off your camera. But I've had pretty good luck with Zoom.
So
This has been a pretty good meeting. I haven't seen anybody dropping off, so that's good. Is everybody?
I want to commend you, Chuck, for all of the advances that you're doing with the technical improvements in every way. I had an experience in January with my aunt who fell, and we had a water intrusion in her slab. We took the long route with the communication from multiple departments to get everything resolved. It was a very long process. So I'm glad to hear that we're in improvement, and also that you're automating all these processes. Also, I had to call Property Services 2 days ago because we have a lot of crickets here, and it's our responsibility inside, but I wanted it addressed outside, and they said they would spray. But I sat on hold after being transferred to maintenance, landscape maintenance, for probably half an hour. But I just set the phone down. So the only thing I'd ask, can you change the music, please?
Oh, we've changed it a couple of times. We used to have a message on hold where you can listen there. You know, we could listen to all kinds of different messages, but we didn't like that. You want a different song? Okay, I'll get you.
It's really bad. It's not a song. It's the music you're playing.
Right. Different music. Okay. I'll see what I can get. Do you have any preferences? Do you like classical music? Do you like the Beatles?
Like jazz.
A little jazz tech. I'll see what I can do. I might know a guy that can fix that.
But anyway, the sitting on hold was not a big deal. It was kind of anticipated and expected. And when I got an agent, they handled it. We've already been sprayed here, so thank you.
Yeah. Anytime we hand it off to another department, depends on where they're at in the field or where they're at in maintenance, depending on how fast they can answer the phone. And by the way, I'm not trying to say anything down here that anything we're doing is miraculous. We got a ton of room for improvement. But right now it's really tough because everybody's working. We got everybody working from home, right? So it's like you're in a straitjacket and one of your arms are stuck, and it's collaboration is an issue, and teamwork and energy. You know, it's great when you can get everybody in the room and you feed off each other and you can collaborate and motivate each other. Trying to do it over a phone, you know, day in and day out, because I have daily phone calls with my folks, right? I want to make sure I see their bright and smiling faces at 8:30 every single morning, because I want to make sure everybody's reporting for duty, right? But it's hard to motivate and encourage and coach folks in this type of environment. So I'm looking forward to we can get everybody back, because I have to tell you, I'm going to accelerate training, documentation, and professionalism as much as I can. hard to do it from
Just the fact that you're moving towards efficiency is really a plus, and change, which is hard. People resist it. So
Okay, there was somebody, I don't know who, it's a gentleman was just on the screen. It flipped off so fast. Oh, there, right here.
Joel, go ahead.
I wish you would publicize greatly using the online request for services instead of phoning. It's
Yes.
much more efficient. It's instantaneous. You can say whatever you want. You can attach a picture of the problem,
Right.
and it goes directly in your own words, and you don't ever have to use the telephone. I haven't reported anything by telephone in years, and I must say whenever I do it online, the service is excellent, the response is excellent, and I don't think a lot of people know that you can do that, and if you publicize that, you would cut down on your phone problem considerably, I believe.
And we're working on it. We send out, if you haven't gone to the website, if you go down to the bottom of the website, you can sign up for the newsletter. It's called What's Up in the Village. We send out periodic emails in regards to that, as well as we have inside the Breeze the magazine. We've got it in there. We're really trying hard, and we need to do better at that, because you're absolutely right. If you use the online tool, you can submit a service order 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when it's convenient to you. And that way it comes down to a queue here. Our resident services agents not only taking phone calls, but they're taking emails as well.
well,
And
the
so-
Globe is a good place to put an ad in there for your
Globe too, yeah.
the Globe.
That would cut down on so many phone calls.
Right. So now with that online service, people always say, hey, I'm submitting this request. Why don't I see it? Because you can see the whole history of all your open, closed, and completed work orders online. If you haven't logged into the resident portal before, I encourage you to do so. When you submit the request and you wonder, well, how come I can't see that request in there? That's because a lot of the requests that we get people ask for, we've got to vet it out. Because sometimes people ask requests for service that's not HOA responsibility. So I actually have to have somebody look at the request. Oh, sorry, that's actually not an HOA thing. We usually get back to them saying, sorry, that's not covered under the HOA. So, but as soon as they input that, open the ticket for that email that comes in, they create a ticket for it, then you should be getting the autoresponders. Have you been getting the autoresponders? Do you have an email on file? Do you get the autoresponders when the email is scheduled and when it's created, or when it's created and completed? Are you getting those?
I get an automatic reply that a request has been filed, and I do it both for things in my manor, I'm in United, and also for things that are GRF responsibilities, such as broken outside lights and burned out carport lights and things like that.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm working on as well. Is right now when you actually log into your resident portal, you only see tickets that are for your manor. You're not seeing those GRF tickets. So I'm working on a way for you to be able to see any of the service requests that you have in your queue. It's something I got working on right now, but the world came to an end about 6 months ago and I got sidetracked. So I'm working on it. But thank you. Send in emails. We like them better. Okay, Deborah? Oh, I'm sorry. Stephanie?
Stephanie, hi. Yeah, excuse me. I see Cox cable trucks working outside of Gate 6. Are they working on our internet?
No, ma'am. Cox wouldn't be. They may have some kind of neighborhood project that are going on there. It's really interesting. We are Broadband Services is a company that you own, the residents own. The assets here, the fiber optic network, the whole entire head-end infrastructure, cable, internet, all that infrastructure you own here. Now, we are surrounded by Cox territory. They are all the way around us, but they don't have any infrastructure in our neighborhood. They don't have any fiber, no coax, repeaters, none of that stuff. All the stuff that's in the community is what you guys own. Now,
Does it affect our,
go ahead.
does it affect our speed when they're working on it? Because I used to get over 100, and the last week I'm down to 12.
It depends on what time. Cox, whatever they're doing, is definitely not impacting you. But you being down to 12, it's definitely a problem. We got to take a look at that. There's one particular node this week. It's node 23. I forget what part of the community in. It's being serviced and repaired, and they were having some fluctuations today. I'll find out what that is. That sounds familiar. But yeah, we have 32 nodes across the community, and it's a battle. These things, it's not like electricity. We just turn it on. Where you actually have to work on these things. And that one started reporting errors on and off over the last week or so. So I'll see if you're part of that. We'll track it down and see if we can isolate it.
Thank you.
We definitely, we do have peak periods. Our peak periods is like between 2 and 5 in the afternoon, 2 and 5 in the afternoon. If you notice it, and just do me a favor, you can test speeds throughout the day. Let me know if it's faster in the morning. Is it slow in the afternoon? Is it slow in the evening? I'm just interested in, because I don't have a place here and I don't use the internet services here. But I like to know. Our internet service provider tells us, between 2 in the afternoon and 5 in the afternoon, that's our main peak period. So I'm just wondering if that's the time that you're having problems.
Been different times.
Yeah, Chuck, it is challenging at different times. It's been challenging. This is Debbie again. It's challenging, especially like if you're teaching online or, it's tough.
Right. So interesting enough, we know that we want to try, I'm looking for, again, my whole goal for me is to be able to find the most efficient, the best product at the best price, and the best service that we can for the lowest possible price that we have. And we are looking at ways we're investigating third-party service providers that may or may not be able to help us out. We hired an independent consulting firm called the Broadband Group to come in to do a complete broadband analysis, both of cable TV, internet services, long-term maintenance, planning, staffing, financials, revenue, TV6, the whole kit and caboodle. They're going to be wrapping up that their assessment in the next 30 days or so. And we'll see what the recommendations are. Recommendations are maintain the status quo, outright sale of the asset, outsource the management of the asset, or a combination of 1 through 3. So we're looking at any and all options, especially with cable TV. Everybody, at least me, I have to tell you, I don't have cable TV at home. I have internet services and I have YouTube TV, and that's all I have. So we think as time goes on, maybe we might be 10 years behind the times here, but eventually people are going to be turning to more and more online news sources, more and more online streaming services than they are, with a clicker, clicking your remote control, doing channel surfing. So we're looking at both what can we do to provide people who are using cable TV the traditional way, provide them the best service, as well as give people the opportunity to be able to stream services online. So we'll see what happens. With that being said, we've been working on something. This is something cool for you, Doug. Is just in 2018. So much I took over the cable TV operation in 2017, and in 2017, we were still an analog television or cable TV operation. We were providing analog services, standard definition services, and high definition services. So we had a head end full of all these different types of equipment to run these different channels out to the community. Joan and I worked on a pretty, and Doug too, thank you, Doug, worked on a project in 2007, 2018 to figure out a strategy to how would we get away from analog. Analog should have been gone in 2008, but here it was in 2018, 10 years after the SEC no longer required you to have analog services, and we were still providing them. So we got rid of, we cut that off, moved everybody over to standard definition, high definition. We dumped hundreds of pieces of equipment at the head end, and we reduced the energy consumption at the head end building very significantly and saving a ton of space. Now, that was 2018. So here we are in 2020. Right now, you probably are not noticing it, but now what we're converting all of these standard definition channels that we're still broadcasting out there to HD, all high definition channels. So by the end of the year, 2020, we're kind of doing this behind the scenes, is we're moving over to a fully high definition cable TV operation that will enable us to reduce hundreds of pieces of equipment at the head end, reduce energy consumption, streamline operations, save on licensing, maintenance, capital expenses, and you name it. And we're getting it done. And we're going to have it done by the end of this year. And so that's pretty exciting. Unfortunately, you guys don't see that exciting stuff where you guys are living at, but I'm just here to share with you. We're doing some really exciting stuff for you. And ultimately, it's going to save you a lot of money over time. Any other questions? I do it all. I even do the windows, for God's sakes. We got to do everything around here.
Well, Chuck, I want to thank you for what has turned out to be a most interesting presentation. And I don't know if you caught it at the beginning, but we are recording this message. We're going to make it available to people in the community for a YouTube site, one of our video club YouTube sites. Will have a link. We'll make that available to the people who are participants in this first, and then as we get calls, I'm sure the word is going to be spreading quickly that Chuck Holland gave an awesome presentation to the video club. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. For me, it's just, I just want to be a great steward of your assets. You know, I hold these people accountable. I don't spend a penny of your money unless I was going to be confident that it was of my own money, right? So I'm about driving costs down, increasing the efficiencies, and making sure that you guys have the best product at the best price we possibly can. Why else am I here, right? That's my primary objective.
Very good. I have one last question on what is the speed capacity for our the bandwidth of our service. I know we were shooting for 1 gigabyte. Is it more than that now?
Good point. Yes, we can. Right now, since we have the new equipment in there, we brought in some new AT&T circuits. We are going to start offering a new tier of service. Right now, our fastest tier of service right now is a 100 megabyte connection, but we are going to start very closely. We're negotiating the prices with West Coast Internet to be able to offer 1 gig services to our residents. Now, before we do that, there's some maintenance things that we need to be able to do to clear up those bottlenecks during the peak periods. But very shortly, we're going to start offering gig services to the
Very
community.
good. Okay. All right. Thank you once again.
Okay, great. Time for dinner. See you guys around town. Okay.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.